Freedom, personal freedom, is fundamental to who we are as Americans. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred. That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy. This shouldn't be a red or blue issue. To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair shot at making it. Let's finish this job. I know we can, because this is the United States of America. There's nothing, simply nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
That was the president's big announcement. Said all the right words: treated equal, land of freedom, we can do it, all of that good stuff that a candidate would say. And here's the tweet that came along with the video. We all want you to see this. Every generation has a moment where they have had to stand up for democracy, to stand up for their fundamental freedoms. I believe this is ours. That's why I'm running for re-election as president of the United States. Join us, let's finish the job. Now, President Biden dropped this news early this morning, but it didn't really shock anyone. We had been hearing the rumblings for at least a couple of months now that the president was going to seek re-election. It was just a matter of time before the announcement was made. But with this news comes even other news along with it, because everybody's not giddy and jumping up and down. Let's put up this tweet from Roots Action. The Democratic Party has no plans to sponsor primary debates. President Biden should not be enabled to coast to renomination without such a debate, especially in light of recent polling that shows most Democrats don't want him to seek a second term. That tweet coming from Roots Action. And then check out this response to that tweet. I'll change my tune if someone meaningful runs, but right now, who would he even be debating? Williamson? RFK Jr.? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Roots Action. We hear you, but hiding him from voters when the majority of Democrats and young people don't want him to run again is a recipe for disaster in 2024. He will have to debate the GOP. That shouldn't be the first time we see how he does when his record is being challenged. And that's right, no primary debates. But we'll go deeper on that in a second, and how that is incredibly anti-democratic. So Jordan, I do agree. I want the team to put back up that tweet with Roots Action, between Roots Action and this person saying who else is there. So Jordan, for me, I'm gonna unpack this the way I see it, and I can't wait to hear how you feel about it. In a representative democracy, that's exactly what it is. And for me, someone who's ran for office, had ups and downs and turnarounds, every single election, whether you hold the office or not, is a way for the voters to really weigh in. And they should have the opportunity whether they want you back or not. Now, as an incumbent in several races, of course, you're sitting back saying, dang, I've done an extraordinary job. I don't want anybody to run against me, but that ain't how, that's not the agreement. That's not the social contract here. In America, we pride ourselves on saying that people have choice. We talk about that choice more pronouncedly in the reproductive health circles. But Jordan, I believe that choice should extend to voting as well, and that nobody, even myself included, when I've been on the ballot, that I should have, just say, hey, nobody jump in the race. I mean, as much as personally, you really don't want anybody to jump in the race, but it's their right here in this country to jump in the race. And how dare this person, I don't even know who the hell this person is, say that, just kind of really dismiss Marianne Williamson and also RFK Jr. I think that's wrong, but I'm looking to hear your thoughts on this, Jordan.
That's a funny tweet selection. That's a buddy of mine. He used to be a comms director for a few progressives in Congress, and I think his point is an interesting one. Right now, I don't know if it would be worth having a debate between Biden and JFK Jr. or RFK Jr. But the debates wouldn't happen right now.
And Marianne Williamson.
Yeah, Marianne Williamson. They would happen later next year. Typically, they have some sort of polling threshold. Right now, unfortunately, RFK is polling better than Williamson. Yeah, it's a bit premature to say this is who would be on the stage, but also it's premature to say we're not having them at all. And if you remember, the Republicans also said they don't even want to have general election debates, that they wouldn't cooperate in general elections. I don't know if they're going to stay true to that. This is something they said after the 2020 election, but there could be a possibility where Biden doesn't have any debates at all the entire campaign, and that's not good. We're not picking somebody for homecoming king. We're not picking a class president. We're picking the president of the United States, and they should be able to demonstrate in scenarios like that, at the very least, mental aptitude. And there are genuine concerns that were expressed all the way back in the 2020 primary by other Democratic nominees about his cognitive abilities. Once he became the nominee, that became taboo. That was a conspiracy theorist or conspiracy theory as described by prominent Democratic pundits. Totally off limits, you couldn't even talk about it. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. This is the guy who is in charge of running the country, not a 7-Eleven. We should be able to see him in high stress situations like this. I think it's a bad decision and extremely premature.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Jordan. And your point about no debates would happen right now, I think most people understand that they wouldn't happen right now. They would happen, next year. Who knows who else may get into the race on both sides, the GOP side, the Democratic side or independent side between now and then. But to stifle, even to shut down the conversation, even right now, to me is very troubling. Your point about this is not the 7-Eleven. This ain't about homecoming king or queen. This is the presidency of the United States of America. We should be able to see how the president can operate in high stress situations. I totally get it. And I remember 2020 like it was yesterday, as you know. Many of you know, and many of our viewers know who I was supporting to be the next president of the United States of America. And I saw in real time, both in 2016 and 2020, what the status quo of the Democratic Party does to shut down, not just physical debate on the stage, but just to shut down anybody that is not their chosen candidate. Now in 2020, we didn't have an incumbent. It was a little different, but that did not stop them from putting their whole body on the scale once again to stop progressive candidates like a Senator Bernie Sanders. It was the first time in this country's history, or at least I'll say modern history, where you had a lot of the top presidential candidates on the Dem side, as you recall, who were polling very high, even above now President Biden, who got out of the primary. As you know, they stepped out of the primary to all endorse the now President Biden. So now this is a pattern that we see with the Democratic Party, which is problematic. Your point, Jordan, about the Republicans, they wrong all day long. Both parties, no party should be able to say we're not going to debate and present ourselves to the American people. It is unfair. And as we as a nation critique and criticize other nations that may be more authoritarian, Shakespeare once said, what's in a name? A rose by any other name smells just as sweet. I use that as an example that even though it might not have the same authoritarian fervor as other nations that are not as, don't have the same democracy principles as we do, when you stifle debate and conversation, to me, it is almost the same thing. And my last point that I want you to react to too, I do also remember in 2020 that we rarely saw then Vice President Biden. They shielded him. COVID helped him to be shielded, as you may recall. And that is not going to be the case now, even though COVID is still lingering. I'm not one of those, I don't think it's over by a long shot. The pressures that people are feeling from it certainly are not over. But do you think that they are trying to do a similar thing? I just listened to a report that said that it was on Breaking Points with Christo and Sagar, and they were saying that this president has given the least amount of debate or interviews, I should say, in modern history, less than even President Donald J. Trump, and certainly way less than President Barack Obama. Your thoughts?
Yeah, we have to consider the role the DNC and the other RNC. Democratic establishment organizations play in our primary process, right? We let that become basically have total control over that process. You saw it in 2016, how they pulled the strings to just basically hand the nomination to Hillary. They tried it again in 20. They're always changing the rules to benefit people who will protect the status quo.
That's right.
And that sort of rule bending or exceptions are never extended to progressives. Bloomberg basically bought his way onto the debate stage just by giving them money.
Yeah,
that's the impression of your organization you want people to have? They don't really care. It's about preserving the status quo, protecting incumbents, protecting Democratic loyalists, and keeping progressives at bay. You have to think about the people who have this D after their name, purportedly are in support of the Democratic Party and are very close to like the DCCC, who go out and bash progressives and then turn around and try to muck up things that are signature planks in Biden's policies, right? Josh Gottheimer is a perfect example. He really tried to stymie Build Back Better the first 2 years of the Biden administration. But he was in their good graces because he was also running a PAC to explicitly target and defeat Justice Democrats.
That's right.
What matters more to them? You would think if anybody else did that, if a progressive did that, imagine if AOC or Ilhan Omar or Rashida Tlaib, anyone like that, tried to stand in the way and block Build Back Better. The names they would be called, the attacks they would be subject to. But when Gottheimer does it from a centrist or right-leaning perspective and couples it with an attack pack against Justice Democrats, you don't see it. You don't see those same attacks, insults, name calling, whatever. And this was his signature 2020 campaign, legislative act. And they just don't care. That's the role they have in picking our candidates, defending incumbents, and maintaining the status quo.
That is exactly right, Jordan. And I often say that they being the status quo wing of the Democratic Party, go harder after progressives, to your point, than they even do Republicans. So you are absolutely right. We're definitely gonna keep an eye on this. Again, I believe that there should be robust debates when that time comes. I also believe that this president certainly has a right to run again, and he's already said that he is going to do so. Other people have the right to run as well, either as a Democrat or Republican, or a libertarian, a third party candidate. Let people go ahead and jump in. That's what representative democracy is supposed to be about. And let us not forget, the DNC and the RNC are private entities. They are really private, they are private corporations. And the fact that they get such sway over what the American people can hear and not hear is problematic to this representative democracy. So however you lean, we're just bringing you the information. You can do with it what you will.